Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Not good enough. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Now that's much better. I know it's Sunday. It's kind of a nice day to be in bed, sleeping late. But I'm glad that you decided to wake up early and come here this morning. Today is the first Sunday of a new month. Believe it or not, we're already in June 2016. First Sunday of every month. And today we have lunch and learn. For those who walked in, we'll see the delicious food that's ready. Those who would like to join us for lunch after the lecture, we'll be more than happy to have you join us. The donation that we asked for is for $15, and this money helps us sustain the center, pay for our bills every month. So we very much appreciate it. Beginning of a new month, we finally finish the 2-month study of the divine laws, and we go right into another very interesting subject, which is mediumship. So today we have an opening lecture by our colleague Rafael, and he's going to be discussing the general topics around mediumship. But before we get started with the interesting stuff, let's have a reading of a message from the book Our Daily Bread by our colleague Marcus Clay, and he will also get us going with an initial prayer. Thank you, and we'll have more announcements at the end.
Good morning and welcome everyone, and also those who are watching us through the internet. The initial message is from the book Our Daily Bread. And the title is The Divine Worker, from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 3, verse 17. His winnowing fork is in his hand. He will clear his threshing floor and will gather the wheat into his barn, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. Ever since the earliest organizations of the gospel movement, apostles and followers of Christ have referred to him by many names. Jesus has been called Master, Shepherd, Messiah, Savior, and Prince of Peace. All these titles are just and venerable. However, we must not forget that alongside these sublime invocations lies the Baptist's unexpected description. The precursor calls Jesus an illustrious worker whose winnowing fork is in his hand, and who will clear the hard and rough floor, gather the wheat at the proper time, and purify the chaff with the unquenchable flame of justice and love. It is interesting to note that John does not introduce the Lord as someone who is holding parchments filled with laws and regulations in his hands, nor does he refer to him according to the old Judaic traditions that expected the divine messenger to arrive in a chariot of magnificent glory. Instead, he refers to an optimistic, self-sacrificing worker. A rustic winnowing fork is not at his side, but is ready in his hands, and his spirit reigns the hope of cleansing the earth that has been entrusted to his saving directives. All of you who are pursuing earthly endeavors to make things better, keep your devotion to the cause of the Christ's gospel lit in your souls. Let us not be waylaid by difficulties or ingratitude. Let us carry out our activities with the precious stimulus of faith, because ahead of us, blessing our humble cooperation, is that divine worker who will clear the threshing floor of the world. And with that, let us all elevate our minds and hearts to our beloved Master, who sacrificed himself in all ways possible to teach us His message of love, to give us the example of how to treat each other. We ask all the good spirits here present to help us to better understand the lessons in the lectures that we are going to listen. Also, we ask the protection to all of those and the inspiration to all of those who are watching us at home. We ask the good spirits to assist our dear friend Rafael. May he inspired to transmit all the studies and the lessons to every single one of us. And we thank, above all, God our Creator for another day, for the assistance of our good spirits inspiring us to be here in this morning, to learn a little bit more about ourselves, about the universe, and the laws of God. Thank you, and so be it.
Good morning. Good morning, those who are watching us through the internet. So, as Joe was saying, the speech today will be about mediumship, and my idea is to introduce the subject in this new month, where we're going to have general terms being discussed today, some insights that hopefully will bring curiosity to you so you come to the next lectures. We'll have Marco Magalhães speaking about practicing mediumship in children by Denise, and the moral influence of mediums by Sandra. So we'll have a month full of information about this very interesting topic that is mediumship, and very important for us as Spiritists. So I'd like to start by speaking a little bit about mediumship in antiquity, how we used to understand mediumship in the far past. And we'll see that in some situations we still see mediumship in the same way as thousands of years ago. So mediumship is hardly something new in our civilization. It has always been with us. So here we have an example of how mediumship used to be seen. Here we have at the left the Temple of Delphi, or the ruins of the Temple of Delphi in Greece. We have there the columns of the Temple of Apollo at the back, and here we have Egypt. So in antiquity, mediumship was divided in two main aspects: communication with the gods and communication with the dead. So this used to rule their world. Actually, the Temple of Delphi, here at the left, was the center of the world, of the Greek world. Everything revolved around the Temple of Delphi. And there, instead of, they didn't use the term mediums, they used the term Pythia, which was the medium at that time, normally a woman, who didn't have any contact external to the temple. She used to live there, and her sole job was to communicate with the gods, and she was taken as an oracle. So people used to go there and ask, what should I do with my life? So all the decisions, they used to put the responsibility on the gods. So the gods were responsible for their decisions. Everything came from the gods. So that's why it was very important for them, this site. They used to do a peregrination, to come from very far away and come and see the Pythia. In Egypt, it was a little bit different. They had a little bit more maturity, but the pharaoh, as we see here, the pharaoh and the two gods, Horus and Anubis. We have Anubis here with the chacal head, and we have Horus. So the Pharaoh, it wasn't just a king. The Pharaoh was the intermediate between the gods again and the people. So it was very important for them. Pharaoh was the one who would guide them to the afterlife. So imagine the importance of that. So he was the guide. If I'm dying today, he is the guy who is going to guide me to the afterlife. So it was incredibly important for them. And, of course, we have several examples of mediumship in the Bible. So this is the case that I chose from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verses from 13 to 14. So in this case, Jeremiah is warned by God that there will be an evil coming from the north that will take the Judah tribe as slaves. In that time, the 12 tribes had already separated. So the strongest tribe, so they had several civil wars after the conquer of Canaan. And the tribe that lingered is the tribe of Judah. So that's why today we call it Jewish, not Israel people, it's Jewish people. Because that was the biggest and most powerful tribe. So at that time, Jeremiah received this message. He was always talking to the Lord. So the Lord said, "Out of the north an evil shall break forth upon all inhabitants of the land." So of course he went forth and said and told everybody to be warned that there will be something, an evil coming from the north, and they should protect themselves. Of course nobody believed him. And later on, maybe a decade or more, the Babylons came. They didn't come from the east, since we have a desert here. So they were an army, so they came following the river, the Euphrates River. So they came from the north. And they acted with the king Nebuchadnezzar. Very, very complicated name. So they came and they conquered Judah's tribe, and they took them as slaves to Babylon. And actually it was in Babylon that they start really writing the Bible as we know it. So another example, which is it's kind of famous, it's in the book The Iliad by Homer. So in this case, the Greeks, as you guys know, this was the Trojan War. So the Greeks were in battle with Troy for 9 years. And the Iliad talks about the last year, the 10th year. And in this book, Homer tells us that Hector, the hero from the Trojans, he was actually winning the battle. So he was crushing the Argives. So it's like Homer referred to the Greeks, the Achaeans or the Argives. So he was crushing them. And he was being helped by another god, Athena, or as they used to call Pallas Athena. And then Poseidon thought, I have to even this out. I have to even the game. So he incorporated in the form of Calchas, which was a prophet at that time like Jeremiah. So he was a prophet of the Greeks. And then Calchas came and he assumed he was incorporated by Poseidon. So he started cheering the Argives. Oh, you go, I'm with you. So you're going to crush them. And actually they won the battle at this time. So if this is true or not, this is lost in time. I'm talking about 750 before Christ. What is important is that for them, communication with the gods was part of life. It's part of their lives. So the communication with the other world was always there, and it was very important. Even the politics was around the communication with the gods. But that was not the only implication of mediumship in antiquity. So as I said before, there was the communication with the gods and the communication with the dead. The difference is just to whom you are communicating. One, you are communicating with the creators or the gods, the superior spirits. The other, you are communicating with your ancestors or your parents, your grandparents, the ones who went to the afterlife before you. And here we have an example of the Cheyenne tribe. So the Cheyenne natives. For them, well, we learned this in high school. They have their shaman. So the shaman was the medium of the tribe. And they really believed, for them, for all this that I'm talking, all those peoples, the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Cheyennes, reincarnation was very natural. All of them believed in reincarnation. So this guy, the shaman, was the one who could remember his past incarnations. So his wisdom came from the accumulated knowledge from all the incarnations. So that's why he was the spiritual leader of the tribe. And there was something very interesting. They actually, when they went to hunt, to kill the wild animals, it wasn't a party. There wasn't a celebration. It wasn't a happy moment for them. Because they knew the animals would come back too. And they didn't want the animals to be angry at them. So they respected the animals. Every time they kill an animal, they used to say, I'm killing you because I need to feed my family. And I need to feed myself. So I hope that when you come back, you're not going to be angry at me. So it's something very simple, but so true. It's so deep. And they had this understanding. And here's the last one. The Druids. The Druids in the Celtic culture. So this is Ireland, United Kingdom, and southern France. So they're all descendants from the Celtic culture. So those guys were very powerful. Here we have the picture of Stonehenge. It's another religion that is almost lost in time. There's a reason for that. They were so powerful. They also believed in reincarnation and communication with the dead. So they were so powerful that the Roman army took more than 100 years to dominate this province of Britain. Because it's very hard to defeat an opponent who believes that if you kill him, he's going to come back in another body and continue fighting you. So, and the Druids, they were priests, but they were also warriors. And they were there with them, showing them that they are receiving the power of the gods. So it was very hard. More was maybe 4 or 5 emperors, more than 100 years in order to take over the island of Britain. And it was never completely, well, they had to build a wall. At the north part, they had to build a wall. Okay, we cannot go any further. So let's build a wall to hold them back. And that's the reason why this religion is almost lost. Because they killed all the Druids. Because they knew that the source of the power was the Druids. The spiritual power, mediumship that came from the Druids. There was even a night they called All Souls Night, which gave rise to our Halloween. In this night, the veil between the two worlds was very thin, so the dead could cross over to our world. Let's say like that. So then, we move forward, and we discover, we understand from the study of a former Druid that we called Allan Kardec, that mediumship, it's actually connected to discipline, moral development, and knowledge. So this guy, he started to study mediumship And mediumship ceased to be a mystery. And it started to be something very serious, very important for us, that has to be studied accordingly. So then, Allan Kardec, using several mediums in several different situations, receiving communication for what we call the Spirit of Truth, which is a collective of several high-order spirits who came with the mission to unveil at least a part of the truth for us. So his study from all this procedure gave rise to our 5 basic books. But for us, for mediumship, the most important one is the Medium's book. So this is the book where he comprised everything that he learned from the Spirit of Truth. And he classified mediumship in several types, and he studied each one of them. Every single one of them receiving counsel from the spirits. So it didn't come from his mind. The study of mediumship came from mediums, came from spirits. It didn't come from this world. He was the guy who accepted the duty or the work to organize everything. But it didn't come from his mind. As when you go to Wikipedia and you see that Kardec was the founder of Spiritism. It's not true. He didn't found anything. It was already there. He just organized. Or he just took something that is very important for our civilization and he put some light on it. He organized in such a way that we could understand, that we could study, and we could develop the subject. We could develop ourselves as mediums. And from that point on, the concept of mediumship as being a way to communicate with the gods or communicate with the dead became very incomplete and vague. So he started, the spirits, they introduced several other concepts and several other sides of mediumship that generated all the studies that we have now. So every medium is a student. It's not a subject that is supposed to be a mystery. It's the other way around. It's a subject that's supposed to be studied. And it's very complex. There's a lot of details that we have to know. There's a lot of rules. So all this came when this work was released. And after that, all the works from André Luiz, Emmanuel, that was psychographed by Chico Xavier or Divaldo. So mediumship became something that is not just the communication with the dead or communication with the God anymore. It's something much more complex than that. And one example of the complexity of the subject, it's in the book Planetary Transition, psychographed by Divaldo. So before that, we used to think medium, it's the incarnate spirit, the incarnate person who can communicate with the spirits. That's it, okay. But that's not the whole truth. Because even when we are in the other side, when we are already dead, let's say, we still need mediums to communicate with the other dead. So that we have several levels. So we have one person that communicates, that allows the communication between the incarnate and discarnate. Okay. Then we are all discarnate. Then there's another medium that is responsible for the communication of the discarnate and the discarnate. So that's just one example. In this case, they wanted to communicate. Well, the subject is planetary transition. So a guest came to talk about the situations that Earth is going through right now in order to reach a better situation in the future, a better state, the state of regeneration. So we are in transition. Our planet is in transition. So then it came a guest from the constellation of Taurus. And he came to a gathering in the spiritual world in order to give a presentation about this transition for those who are working and helping in the transition. But the thing is, this guy was so evolved that even if he was there between them, they would not be able to see him. So there was the need for 2 female mediums to sit around a table, and there was a tube coming from the ceiling. We have no idea what this is for. That's another thing, is there's so many science behind it that we have no idea. We have no idea how they do it. They explain, they say the details, like in this case, 2 female entities wearing long vaporous dresses were sit beside a tube formed by a weak light coming from the ceiling. Okay, we can form the picture in our mind, but we have no idea how to do that. So in those 2 mediums, they donate their fluids in order for this person, this spirit from Taurus, to materialize inside of the tube and then being able to give the speech. So then we cannot just say that mediumship is the communication with the dead, because they are all dead. So it becomes a little bit more complex than that. We need to enlarge our view of what really is mediumship. And for that, 2 key words that we always read about need to be addressed: planes of existence and vibration. We always read that the difference between them, or us and the discarnate spirit, or the spiritual world, or the spiritual plane, is vibration. What does that mean? What is this vibration that they all talk about? And why is that related to mediumship? Don't be scared. I'm doing this. I'm trying to explain in the simplest way. Okay? Vibration is nothing more than something that is going up and down, up and down. Everything is vibrating. Everything is vibrating. If you see the waves of the ocean, that is an oscillation, a vibration. So since we are addressing that, we have to measure. So that's all we do in science. So we measure and predict, and put some numbers in the middle. Okay, that's what we always do. So in this case, we have to measure that. So the way we measure the distance between the peaks, and then we call that the wavelength. Because if something is oscillating, it's following a pattern, and we call this pattern a wave. So waves are everywhere. Everything is vibrating. You look at me now, and if I'm standing still, you'll see, I'm not vibrating, but I am. I am vibrating. There was even a physicist that is mentioned in the book Mechanism of Mediumship. Mechanism of Mediumship by André Luiz. And he mentioned the name of this physicist, de Broglie. De Broglie calculated the frequency of every matter, even us. And he is right, we still use his equation. The difference is we don't see it. Because if you see here, this is the whole spectra of electromagnetic radiation, or electromagnetic vibration, or electromagnetic waves that we know. This is the whole spectrum. So we come from gamma rays to radio waves, and ultraviolet, infrared, we keep going. What we can see is just that little part there. That's what we can see. So we have a whole reality involving us, but we are completely limited to what our 5 senses can perceive. So what we perceive right now is just a glimpse of reality. So you don't see my vibration. You see probably a lot of colors here. Those colors are just in your brain. They don't exist. There's just this light that is being produced here reflecting from whatever you're looking at. So those are just wavelength that our brain reproduced as colors. So what I'm trying to say is, our view of reality, our view of the truth, or is what is really truth, is completely limited to the range of perception of our senses. So we have that for our eyes, our optical sensors. We have that for our ears. We have that for our touch. This is just electromagnetism. We don't touch anything. We never touch anything. You guys think you are sitting on the chair? You're not. You are hovering above it. So this is not solid. This is because our vibration is so low that we interact with the wall and it seems that this is solid. But for the spirits, could be just air as we move through air. For them, this is not an obstacle. That's why here we are sitting and we have those chairs and you guys are sitting here. But for the spiritual world, they have chairs all around here. This is not an obstacle for them. They can sit around. This is much bigger. Up. I don't know if it's down, but I know it's for the sides and up. So this brings us to the concept or to the idea that we have several worlds existing together. And we don't perceive it because our senses don't capture that. It doesn't mean that it's not real. So the thing that we say, I didn't see it, ergo is not real. That couldn't be more wrong. We cannot trust our senses. This is not news. There was a lot of people who knew that thousands of years ago. We cannot rely only in our five senses in order to perceive reality. So this is an example of other world. This is a movie made by IBM. Every little dot that you see is an oxygen atom. So they made a movie by manipulating atoms. So the name of the movie is The Boy and His Atom. So it's the shortest movie ever created. The ripples that you see are electrons who are circulating the atom. So they are manipulating atom by atom. So this is, if you see the movie, of course it's not high definition or ultra K definition, but it's amazing that now we can manipulate one by one of those spheres. And the thing is, if this were here right now, it could go through us, we could swallow it. We wouldn't even realize that this world exists. We wouldn't realize. It's outside of our range of vision. The frequency of this world is different than the one we can see. It doesn't mean it isn't there. Another one. This Lego-like bug is called tardigrade. Tardigrade. So this guy, he lives in a drop of water or in a drop of dew. And he's so tiny that only recently we became aware of its existence. Even if we take this guy and we put it in a satellite and setting out of space, he's gonna survive. He doesn't need much. If they are talking between themselves, you know that I've heard that there are humans that are walking on Earth and they step on us all the time. They are so tiny that they don't interact with our world. We can step on them, but still our shoes has threads. And for them it wouldn't change much. So what I'm trying to bring is the different planes of existence. And we all live together. The thing is, we don't always perceive each other. And this is the role of mediumship. In our case, we have here our body, so which lives in a plane of existence limited by a range of frequencies that we can perceive. Then we evolve a little bit and we acquire another body. The body is the physical representation of our soul, of our spirit, in that plane of existence. That's how we can define the body. It's a physical representation. It's not us. The body is not us. It's a physical representation, limited within a range of frequencies. If we evolve a little bit more, then our body can perceive more and more of the reality that surrounds us. In the book Heaven and Hell, in the Spiritist Society of Paris, with Kardec, they had an agreement between them. So they would say, the first one who discarnate, it can be called. We can agree with each other that if I die today, you can call me right away. So then we can experiment and I can tell you what am I seeing. So they did that. I believe the chapter of the good spirits. And one of the first things that caught my mind was that they start describing that they were seeing colors they had never seen before. They didn't know it exists. They could never explain what is that color that they are seeing, or those different colors. They are seeing things in such a different way. Everything seems deeper, more complex, more defined, because our range of frequencies increased. But there's something. Why is this important for us? Because the way we communicate between those planes of existence, it doesn't matter if we are incarnate or discarnate. The term incarnate and discarnate is just to separate two sides with different frequency ranges, with a body in the middle. So it doesn't need to be just us and the ones that we cannot see. It happens too in the spiritual world and keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. It's a scale, an infinite scale. It keeps going. But there is a link between all of us. It doesn't matter the frequency or it doesn't matter the vibration that we are. There is a link between all of us. This link, we have no idea how to explain. So the best way is to call it God. Sometimes you can measure how much a person knows by how long it takes for that person to say it's God's will. As we all know, if we say God, He's the creator, He's the supreme intelligence. So He's the cause of everything else. So if you can explain a natural law, you can say, it's God's will. It is. It will always be. The difference is how long it takes for us to say it's God's will. So in this case, we can say that we are connected through thought. Doesn't mean much. We still don't know what thought is. You can say it's electromagnetic fluid. Doesn't mean much, because when you see the behavior of thought, for example, in that example that I brought from the constellation of Taurus, the guy came from 65 light years away, and he came right away from this moment. If we mention electromagnetism to try to explain that, it wouldn't be true. Because everything that happens here, if he came at the speed of light, as an electromagnetic wave, it would take him 65 years to get here. So he would arrive on Earth in a completely different situation. So we are separated by 65 years, traveling at the speed of light, if he can travel at the speed of light. So that's why when we say electromagnetism, it is still not complete. It doesn't belong to the model that we know today. It is not complete. We say sometimes, in order to make it easier, that it is not complete. It's a completely different model. So that's why I'm saying that the link between all of us is God. And this means that we can communicate going up or going down. I didn't put the other bodies, but there is bodies up and there's bodies down. So we have planes of existence. They are above us and the ones that are below us. So we can communicate with all of them. Which one are we going to choose? Of course, the ones that are higher, because you go higher, the more knowledge you know. So then you're not going to ask the guy who knows less than you. You're going to ask the guy who knows more than you. So what I'm trying to point out is mediumship is the capability or the capacity that we have to catch the messages that are in this link and bring forth and bring to our conscience. We are always communicating. We are always communicating with each other. The difference is some of us can bring this message to our highest level of conscience and be aware of it, and those who receive that and they will never be aware of it. They are not. It's on a lower level of conscience. They don't even know they have received that message. So the ones that today we call mediums are those who can pick the message from this link and bring to us and communicate, of course, through the five senses. So it's an organic thing. It's a development of the body, our body. And this is much more than just communication with the dead or communication with the gods. It's our way to perceive truth. As I said, our five senses are not enough to perceive the truth. We need this channel. We need mediumship. There's a lot of our science today that have been discovered through mediumship, through inspiration, through intuition. We just do not acknowledge that because we don't know. We don't know how to explain. Or even if we know, it's still... I forgot the word now. Well, it's still something that is frowned upon. If I publish a paper and I say that, oh, this idea came from the spirit who was talking yesterday, that's not going to be very well received. Even though we know that those ideas, that they seem to come from thin air. Who would say that a clerk of the patent office would take a streetcar someday, look back and see, oh, if light was traveling at this speed, how would they supposed to see a ray of light? And this guy, he wrote a paper and he called special relativity. So where does the idea come from? Of course, anywhere else. He wasn't a professor. It's actually well, this is another example of a person who understood that in order for us to perceive reality, we need to focus on ourselves inside. We need to meditate. We cannot mix our ideas with what we are capturing with our five senses. This person was Socrates. Well, we have this image is known as when he took cicuta, the poison, when he was condemned to death. This part is from the book Phaedon. It was written by Plato and is allegedly what Socrates was teaching. So he says, the one who uses his thought without any mixture seeks to find the pure and truthful essence of things. So it's what we do today. So we learn how to meditate. If one of the first things that we do in a mediumistic group is to close our eyes. Why do we have to close our eyes? Why can I stay with my eyes wide open throughout the meeting? We are just decreasing the flow of data that goes to our brain. So we just close our eyes so that we don't have to worry about the images that we are seeing. We have to concentrate inside. The answers, or the way we perceive reality, is more complete when we trust inside, when we are in what we already know. Of course, that we need the five senses, or otherwise you're gonna crash when you are driving. You cannot drive with your eyes closed. But this is something very deep, that we need what it is inside of us in order to really see what reality is. Not just physical experimentation. That is good too. That allows us to grow and to learn. But mediumship, it's very rooted in our being as a means to perceive what we are really doing here. Well, that's why we are all doing, well, we are all here on a Sunday morning. Because we are seeking for this truth, those answers. And this guy, Socrates, it is amazing, his conclusions. In this book, he talks about cities in the other world surrounded by air. And he describes the cities. Today we call them colonies. So he knew that already, just by understanding himself, just by meditating. Well, we have an instructor here, Paul, that teaches us how to meditate. And it's a very important ability to learn how to rebalance our body, to learn how to clean our mind. If you try to meditate, you will see how disorganized our mind is. We're thinking everything else, so we don't even know what we are thinking of. It's just a flow of things, because we are not used to. We are used to have data being processed all the time from our senses. Then when we try to connect with something deeper, we still have an overflow of data. Since we don't have a sense anymore driving that data, then they come all around randomically in our mind. So this, it's in a speech that was given by the instructor Alexandre in the book Missionaries of the Light, chapter 9. So he is there, and he is speaking to incarnate spirits and discarnate spirits. It's in the spiritual colony, but there are some incarnate spirits who are there, who received permission to be there while they are sleeping. So they are still connected to their bodies, and they are there because he's speaking about mediumship. And several of them are seeking mediumship, or they are already mediums. The first thing he says, or the first thing that I took from the text, is that we are an infinite community of the living, separated from one another by the constraints of vibration. So we are not the ones that are living, the ones that are dead, or the people and the gods. We are all one community of the living. We are all living, and we will always be living. We are never going to die. The only difference is in which range or frequency we are living now. And we can have a glimpse of the reality of the other levels through mediumship. So that's why it's so important for us. But the problem is, this mediumship, since we have a glimpse of the truth, or we have a glimpse of life in other planes, some people, they force mediumship. They want to become a medium yesterday. And they really want to communicate whatever means necessary. So then we have forced mediumship. As I said before, we have a link, a channel that connects all of us, not just the good ones. So we have to be careful to whom we connect. So in this case, we have an example of that Ouija board, which it's sold as a game, but it's a very dangerous game. So you need to know who you are calling. So Alexander tells us that without any preparation, he was addressing the incarnates who were there, you attempt the crossing of vibrational borders, invoking invisible powers of any nature for the training of psychic abilities. So without any training, without any knowledge, without wanting to do any work, you want to communicate right away. You want a shortcut. Lazy people will get communication with lazy spirits. If you want to communicate with the frequencies that are above you, or the highest vibration, you need to increase the vibration yourself inside. And that's why in the previous slide I showed that mediumship is forever connected to moral development, study, and discipline. So we need all that in order to be connected to the higher planes. And that's the mediumship we want. But we need to be patient. They are not our servers. We just don't call them. Tell me what I want to know. I want to know how is life on Mars. We cannot treat them as if they were just serving us. We need to understand that we know what we need to know right now. Too much knowledge is not going to do us very good. If we see us today, we have all this scientific knowledge. We do a lot of things. We go to space. We communicate with each other anywhere in the world instantaneously. But some people still pray for their teams to win the World Cup, or I don't even know the name of the prizes they have here in Canada. Or Blue Jays or Stanley Cup. Okay. So they pray for the gods. Sometimes they go to the psychics. In the same way we used to do with the Temple of Delphi, to ask if the team is going to win or not. Or should I bet on this team? Should I bet on that team? We are still doing the same thing as thousands of years ago. And that means that inside, in our heart, we still have a lot to learn in the deepest degree of knowledge, in the true knowledge, the knowledge of love, the knowledge of how to live with each other, and to understand what is our position in society. Why would I pray to this team to win? So the other one doesn't deserve to? Why would I think that this one has to be that receive the help of the gods and this one doesn't? That means that we have a very the contrary of busy. Idle. So we have a very idle mind. So this is so important. That game is so important for me that I'm going to pray for those people to win. Don't I have anything more important in life to be worried about than a game? It's good for us to have fun, but it should not be more than that. It should not be a religion. We are far away from the Delphi temple. Far away. And now we know from this study, from Spiritism, how to the proper behavior around mediumship. I have just a few more things and then I'm going to free you to eat. Oh, this is important. Another example of forced mediumship is the use of drugs in order to achieve this other plane of existence through chemical induced substances, or the chemical induced state. We smoke something, or we drink something, or we smell, or whatever. We used to do that. We have another example here of a shaman who is breathing that smoke, and that smoke is creating a different level of conscience so that he can communicate with the spirits. But now we know better. As Alexandre is telling us, do not foster the premature development of your psychic faculties. Enhance your self-balance, and the Lord will open up to you the door of the new knowledge. It has to come from inside out. You have to change inside, and then you can reach any state you want from inside, not from outside, not from smoking something. That is going to destroy your perispirit. It's like if you have a bar of ice and you have a very hot iron and you touch the ice and you leave a hole, that little space, the ice that was in that little space became vapor. So that vapor achieved a higher state of frequency. But what about the rest of the ice? That's what happens to us. It has to be one sole thing. From inside, we increase the vibration of our whole body. We reach this state naturally through hard work, mental work, and not just in a substance. In which, sadly, I've been seeing that it's been going all around more and more and more and more. And people are saying that, oh, that's good for you. It is not. It's not just our body that we have to be worried about. It's our other body, our perispirit. What's going to happen to it after we lose this one? Let's go to the most important one. So with all this, the baseline is mediumship is nothing without Jesus, without Christ, without us looking for the higher realms, the higher frequencies, the truth, or as we call it, love. Mediumship is a communication, is a channel, as I said. So we grasp messages from this channel and we bring forth. This is the medium. But what is the frequency that he's connected to? If he's connected to the lower frequencies or is random, why do we need mediumship? Why is that important? It will only be important if we connect to the right ones. That brings us, that teaches us something. Teaches us how to be better. The only important mediumship is the one that teaches us how to be better. And that's the one that we call the Christian mediumship. With our friend, our brother, our master, Jesus Christ. And that is the one that will thrive to achieve. That's why we study, we read so much, and we try every day to be a better person. Sometimes we can't. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that we keep trying. Every single victory that we achieve in our life is important. Every small one that nobody notices, but we know. Oh, somebody was very rude to me today. I didn't say anything. I wasn't rude back. So that's a small victory. Nobody's going to know. But it is a small victory. Sometimes things that I should have said something, and then you say and you feel even worse. You always feel worse, of course. Sometimes the only thing that makes us feel bad if you don't answer is our pride. Because it shouldn't be there. It's just the illusion that we have of ourselves. So mediumship, it's useful when it teaches us how to increase these victories little by little in our days and to give us strength to keep going. It's not the one who makes the chairs float around and turn and fall back. So it's the one that makes us grow. Okay? I think my time is up. I'm finished here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael. We have a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 questions if anybody wants to comment something. No? You did a great job communicating.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just as a reminder, we continue the topic of mediumship all month long, except that we have a break with a visit from a very special guest on the 18th and 19th, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday is an unusual day for us to have events, but Medium Mazotti Ducey is coming from the...
Only Saturday.
So only Saturday. That's right, she leaves the same day. She's providing us instruction on children education, evangelization. So anyone who has a child, grandchild, nephew, or wants to have a child, please make sure that you save the date for Saturday, June 18th at 1:30. We continue our activities every week here at the TSS, Wednesdays and Thursdays with our educations sessions, which are broadcast live by FAB TV. We also provide the fraternal assistance on those 2 days. So if you would like to have a chance to come in and chat with somebody, discuss concerns you might have, issues you might be having in your life, and you'd like to see a little bit of a different point of view from the Spiritist doctrine point of view, you're more than welcome. Just talk to one of our volunteers and we can make sure that we find someone available to come and be available for you here. Every Sunday we continue with the lectures. We continue with mediumship this month. It's a very interesting topic. Rafael just scratched the surface very technically, by the way, but there are many different angles to mediumship, and that's what we're going to explore in each one of the Sundays. Thank you for being here. Now we are going to prepare ourselves for the passes. Yes, so probably those who have children for the babies and toddlers next week, we won't have anybody available to take care of them. I think that our volunteers have talked to all the parents, but just in case they haven't, there will not be the babies and toddlers activity next Sunday. So let's call in our pass givers and our children to have the passes, and then we'll have a quick final prayer, and we'll open up then